Depan dulu. Aduh, ini. Kalau depan. Ini jangan. Oke.
PKR menjanjikan akan menurunkan harga minyak sekiranya memerintah negara ini. Berapa agaknya harga minyak akan naik?
Kita berikan cadangan berdasarkan jumlah keuntungan besar dari Petronas, dan kita sebut tidak sebut jumlah, tapi yang pasti harga minyak tidak akan naik seperti mana yang dijanjikan oleh Badan Nasional. Dia menjanjikan harga minyak naik. Keduanya jumlah sebenarnya yang kita akan turunkan itu akan diputuskan kemudian.
Secretary, they're saying that if we're going to reduce the price of petrol, that means we're going to increase the subsidies and which will lead to inflation.
Not necessarily. So you can have a mean. I mean, this is a very elaborate discussion here, quite technical too. Because in 8 years I was finance minister, we have kept the price at $1.10. Well, because they counted saying the price was not as volatile as it is now, but it was volatile. There were times that the subsidy should be increased, but when the price was lower, we did not reduce the price. And so we kept it at that price. Only once did I increase by about 3 cents, but reduce it back to $1.10. That is possible. But why is it that it becomes an issue when you subsidize petroleum for the poor, generally for the massive? When you give all sorts of subsidies for all sorts of economic activities for the rich, why is no question raised when you give 530 million subsidy in the name of commission buying the 2 submarines? Why is there no question when it comes to 900 million ringgit profit to Kuala Dimensi, benefiting UMNO and MCA leaders when it comes to zone bebas Pelabuhan Kelang? So I think there is, of course, a contradiction here. I would even extend this to say pure hypocrisy on the part of the VN government for allowing this massive funds channeled to the few, and we come to helping the country and the poor to contain prices that would cause hardship for the poor. You call it not practical. I don't think we would proceed to allow it to fall to the extent that would cause inflationary pressures. I mean, this is a macroeconomic issue that we'll have to manage.
Dr. Sri Ong Kating yesterday said that whatever is promised by the opposition parties are in place because he claims that the opposition knows that he will not come into power. What's the comment on that?
I congratulate Ong Kating for sounding a bit confident for the first time. Otherwise, we will leave it to Abdullah Badawi and Najib to answer and to determine this all the major issue. But notwithstanding that, may I caution him, if he understands the sentiments, at least on the Chinese, he knows precisely what I mean. That the Chinese are ready for change. We have crafted the Malaysian Economic Agenda, which is a more detailed and elaborate view of the direction that the country should move if we want to be more competitive. Now, the issue is economic growth and competitiveness. But together with this, we talk about equity and distributive justice. Now, the new economic policy, to my mind, has outlived its purpose. It is now obsolete. But more critical is the fact that the new economic policy has been abused to enrich the families of UMNO leaders and their cronies. You see, all the major awards, billions and billions of ringgit, have benefited the few families, either families of ministers or cronies. So my point is, if you want to deal with the issue of poverty, vast majority are Malays, there are Indians in the estate sector, there are pockets of poverty in the urban sector affecting the Chinese. Why can't we just say we have an affirmative action policy helping the poor, the marginalized, including those in the rural heartland of Sabah and Sarawak? It is not racially based. if you talk about microcredit for the poor or for the lower income group, the vast majority of those in that category, of course, will be the Malays, which means the Malays would benefit. But then you would also ensure that it is not discriminatory in the sense that it would equally benefit the Chinese and the Indians. So I think this should be the correct approach for Malaysia in the future. But doing so, because you don't impose this unreasonable quota of 30% for UMNO leaders, you actually encourage foreign direct investments. One of the major issues raised by the foreign investors is because of the perceived discriminatory policies, that they are compelled to choose families relating to the minister or prime minister or deputy prime minister, and it's not a transparent policy. Kalau kita kata program kita, Malaysia ini ya bukan negara miskin Afrika. Sudah sampai ketika kita boleh menjamin pendidikan percuma rendah menengah universiti. Katalah kategori RM10,000 ke bawah pendapatan bulanan. Semua dapat. Keluarga Melayu, keluarga Cina, keluarga India, iban kadang semua tergolong. Jadi dia tidak ada masalah, tak bangkit lagi masalah kaum nak dapatkan beasiswa. Ini kalau beasiswa Melayu, anak menteri dapat beasiswa. Gaji dan allowance RM30,000 sebulan. Itu yang halal. So I mean, I just elaborate this point. When we say a transparent policy, not based on race, it should never be perceived as alleged by UMNO that it is done at the expense of the Malays. No, because you see poverty eradication or free education for all, for those having an income of 10,000 ringgit and less. It covers all Malaysians. Well, it may benefit, naturally it will benefit more Malays, but Malays are majority of the population. But you have Chinese, you have Indians, there is cases, which must be helped and assisted. But now, you talk about new economic policy and scholarship. Most ministers' children have scholarships. Why? I mean, what is the salary? All in 30,000 ringgit per month. And these are all, I mean, legitimate salary. But then there are so many side incomes. You have not talked about submarine commission. You have not talked about Pelabuhan Kelang zone bebas. So and it is, I mean, shameful for ministers to accept this grant. And you ask me, people to challenge me, I said, look, when Nurul Izzah was sent by me and Aziza to University of Petroleum, automatically she was offered a petroleum scholarship. You can check with Petronas. When I saw the list, I said, thank you very much. I have to reject this. This is my check of 6,000 ringgit for the first term fees. You tell me, any minister, past, present, who have done that? Because to Petronas is automatic because she had 7 A's, 8 A's, whatever. So she qualified. But I said, I have a problem. Well, how do I accept when I know some even poor Malay students, poor Chinese and Indians not getting scholarship? So, on cutting and the rest should not be personal with me, because you set a good example here. If only he has a little courage to tell Prime Minister Abdullah Badawi and Datuk Najib, stop this nonsense, of course. Which we don't have. It is worse than Pakistan. And a free and fair elections. This point I want to raise, you see, as I said to Reuters this morning. You have United States and President Bush talking about so much about ensuring free and fair elections in Pakistan. Okay. Now, the elections conducted in Pakistan recently is far more free and fair than Malaysia. Why this mockery and contradiction when it comes to Malaysia? Just because President Bush feels that Prime Minister Abdullah Badawi is his good friend, and therefore we can do away with the fair and free elections. This is what is happening now. And they can ignore the fact that there is certainly a fraudulent process and no access to the media. no access to the media for the opposition,
That's
except the foreign media and a little the Chinese media.
By the way, we hear that Anwar is completely banned from the media.
It's interesting. They use the media, RTM, TV3 dan newspapers utusan Malaysia semua ni besar iklan. Harga minyak Malaysia, harga minyak Singapura. Ingat rakyat ni tak ada bertawar langsung. Singapura net importer, kita net exporter. Singapura bukan ada minyak, tak ada air pun tak ada. Jadi dia naik harga. But pendapatan per kapita Singapura 5 kali lebih baik dari Malaysia. Ini semua tak disebut. Jadi tak. Kalau nak banding harga minyak Malaysia, kena banding harga minyak Malaysia dengan harga minyak di negara pengeluar minyak, dengan Brunei, dengan Arab Saudi, dengan Qatar. Harga pengeluar dan pengekspor minyak. Dan kalau banding dengan harga pengekspor minyak, harga minyak Malaysia tinggi. Okey.
Dr. Sri, PKR has positioned itself as a multicultural party in this election. How is that progressing? How is your AFP? How is your branding, your party's branding as a multicultural party? How is that progressing?
Well, candidates, we have Chinese, Cubans, Kadazans, Malays, Indians, and issues raised. And frankly, I've been in politics and public for a long time. I've never seen this sort of mood. I was in Sungai Petani last night, and you have a huge crowd. You have many Malays, Chinese, Indians together, which is not usual. Yeah, and Chinese sitting in the Philippine part of this sort of new sort of a way of a multiracial entity. And there is a difference. Once you have that, you have to then look. We have to have the Malays, we have to have the Chinese, we have to have the Indians. We cannot destroy mosques, and we cannot destroy temples, and we cannot destroy churches. So it by itself is a major contribution to multi-ethnic relations.
Much has been said about the Chinese vote swing with the opposition, but how about the Malay ground? Are you confident of securing Malay ground? How many percent?
I don't know what percentage. We'll see on the 8th. But there's certainly a shift. You see, if you look at 99 elections, there's a huge shift to Malay ground. In the northern provinces, you find even up to 60%, but not enough in the Chinese and far less among the Indians. Now, we want to sustain the level of support with probably a slight shift or Malay support upwards as compared to 2004. But we certainly see this remarkable support and much more pronounced support, enthusiasm among the Indians. It's doing well actually. Even the media, I mean the journalists will be very happy for once in your life in this country, you are free to write and report.
Not published.
No, I mean, if we do make it.
How do you view BN Manifesto?
Much ado about nothing. Yang BN Manifesto yang lama itu pun belum. Sekarang ada yang baru. Yang lama ini menentang rasuah lagi banyak. Patutnya manifesto BN sekarang patut saya akan berusaha mengurangkan kata rasuah daripada 4 tahun yang lalu. I don't think it is anything serious other than repeating and making new assertions.
Dr. Sri, can I just talk about Dr. Sri Wananiwa's comment the other day in the press that she would actually stand aside to allow you to take over her party PC if she won in this election? And are you going to do that? Will you stand for a by-election if Dr. Sri Wananiwa is allowed
Well, she gives me an option. There are many others giving me the option. I'm not discovered with Tian Chua, but he's giving me the signal. But I think we are keeping the options open. Aziza has been very kind, but she's competent representatives, and it's simply difficult for me just to agree to a suggestion to opt to stay out in the event she she wins, which I'm very confident of, she will secure the seat, although Dr. Najib is having sleepless nights in trying to conspire to get us out. He should be focusing in Pekan now, because we have sent a very young, clean, credible, competent man to challenge him. And don't ever forget that he won only with 200 votes majority.
But will you be standing?
No, which means I'm given the option, not only by Aziza, by many other candidates. So I will look at the option and see whether I need to and what time frame.
But Dr. Sri, I need to clarify with you. Are you definitely going to stand for a by-election on any keadilan held seat once your ban expires?
Yes.
Thank you.
When the ban, it's Vicky Lingham's.
Sorry, I apologize for that.
David,
No,
because of the statements by several keadilan candidates who said that they are willing to make way for you, there are questions or criticisms that they are not serious to stand as an MP because they're going to give it up for you, or that you're encouraging nepotism because of the wife and daughter. Can you comment on that?
No, they are standing on a party platform, on a reform agenda. They are offering themselves, okay, based on this party manifesto and a reform agenda. So they say, look, what is the harm of they offering among us in the leadership team to say, look, I offer this. But of course, I would advise them to discuss this thoroughly with their constituents. Okay? In the event they decide to do that, we say we're going to go down and discuss with the constituents.
But would it be encouraging nepotism if you're going to have, husband, wife, and daughter?
Well, nepotism is a challenge when you use this to give 3 billion contract to your son. Okay? When you have suddenly a young man or a girl of 23, 24 becoming billionaires, children of Ling Yong Six and Mahathir's and Abdullah's, Nurul Izzah on her own, she struggled, went through this hardship. She struggled when I was in prison, okay, and she's going through not this 5 million or 500 million ringgit award for she was, when she was my daughter as a Deputy Prime Minister, we declined scholarship from Petronas. This is on record. Probably the only minister that have done that I know of. But what is important is that she's taking this as part of a struggle against an incumbent minister using the entire machinery of government and huge sums of money being thrown. So this is a major struggle, it's a sacrifice on her part.
PKR seems to be fielding several candidates who are also involved as either lawyers or witnesses in the Ingham video inquiry. Are you concerned that they may be this action may be viewed as opportunist or in any way by voters?
Well, I've seen that, but with this Wee Chi Kiong has been in touch with us for a long time. He's a seasoned politician, and and he was an MP in the past, and he was deprived of his right because of the dirty, corrupt system, and it's now accepted. He's part of the Vicky Lingam, Vincent Tan, Kuat Nan, and Yusuf Chin's again. Okay, now. How do you deny him this right? In the case of no, that they came forward. They could have sold this for 10, 15 million ringgit. You know that? When they were committed, because they say they are just fed up and sick with this endemic corruption in the judicial process. And he's very qualified. He has master's in law. One of the few competent in Chinese law. So why deny him just because he happens to be supportive of us? What happens if he's chosen as MCA candidate? It's not issue in the media, of course.
So will you still lead the PKR if PKR lose in the election?
Why are you so pessimistic?
Yeah, let's
You should go and see our campaign and not just read the Straits Times and Berita Harian.
I put it this way, will you still lead PKR no matter what the result is?
The decision whether I do lead or not will rest with the party.
But coming back to the Barisan Manifesto, they said that there's been a lot of progress and economically and in terms of jobs and everything, and given the statistics, you just...
Yeah, I mean, some are quite impressive, like what Abdullah Badawi tried to do last fortnight, saying that our competitive index is number 8.
Yeah.
You know, it's number 23. So statistics do not lie, but can be manipulated. But the fact remains that we were number 1 in the 90s in terms of foreign direct investments, number 1 in terms of market capitalization, number 1 in terms of growth. We have lost on all grounds. We had the best university, we were number 200. We were, I mean, so we can go on. Look at the media index, look at the corruption index. I think we will have to look at these things too.
So you feel that there's really nothing so great?
I don't believe anyone, any serious political analyst or any person who has any semblance of understanding of the economy would readily concede that the economy is well in this country. I think my friend, Prime Minister Abdullah Badawi, is in a state of denial, like his friend, President Bush, and so far as Iraq is concerned.
Dr. Sri, the state of economy, do you think that that is the main thing that's going to actually propel voters to consider the opposition when they make the decision?
I think the major issue is the economy. Okay?
The most concerned issue is about education,
Yeah.
and also they are asking to do school. So what would you say to politics and
Why? First on the education, you see, we'll be very transparent. We say free education, make sure grants are given to all schools. Who will benefit? Naturally, sekolah kebangsaan. Majority of the schools are sekolah kebangsaan. Majority of the students are Malay students. Why do I need to qualify this? Because UMRO will use this against me to say that why is it that Anwar has announced saying that it should be transparent, it will benefit all. So I make it clear it will benefit all. Malays, Chinese, and Indian. There must be a clear policy. If there is a basic requirement to set up any school, Indian, Tamil or Chinese or sekolah kebangsaan, it must be addressed. It cannot be approved just a month or 2 weeks before elections.
But the candidate is using the example that this will become the Minister of Education.
When I was Minister of Education, that was the UMNO policy then. Adopted by Hussein On, by Mahathir, applied by Anwar, now by Hishamuddin. That we are now not fighting one individual, Hussein On, when he was Minister of Education, or Hishamuddin. We are dealing with a system. We have rejected that policy, that UMNO policy, that MCA and Gerakan is part of. Okay? So we are now proposing a new policy, more transparent and clear, so that all this issue about race, language, and education can be over. It's a new Malaysia we're talking about. And you know how do I address the Malays? 20,000 Malays, I said, look, Louisa, the optional subject when she was Washington, was Mandarin. You know why? Because the Americans feel one of the most important languages in Asia, other than English, is Chinese. I have 2 children in school. Their optional language is Chinese. Why? Not the expense of Malay. First, number 1, they must master Malay, then English, then Chinese. So that should be how we address the issue. I hope MCA leaders can learn. Because it's not only a problem of UMNO. The UMNO policy is there. How much the MCA tends to criticize me doesn't change or alter the present UMNO policies. We offer something clear, more transparent, so that we can close this chapter about language education, which has been going on for the last 50 years. Terima kasih banyak.